Have you ever woken up from a dream that felt, well, just a bit too real? A dream that leaves you shivering, not just because you're scared, but because you have this terrifying, creeping suspicion that the memory doesn't actually belong to you. Today, we are taking a deep dive, a really suspenseful descent, into a psychological labyrinth where identities are totally erased and memories themselves are literally stolen.
So what if your most painful memories aren't even yours? It is a deeply unsettling thought, isn't it? Well, we are skipping the usual agenda today because I want to plunge you straight into the dark, twisted mystery of a story called The Scent of Blue Jasmine. Brace yourselves for this one because this narrative is absolutely going to make you question the very fabric of your own mind.
We are starting right in the middle of the terror. Imagine hearing the words, "No, don't leave me in the fire," whispered into the dark. That is exactly what our protagonist, a 30-year-old photographer named Lila, murmurs as she jolts awake in her luxurious apartment. She is completely drenched in sweat. A fiery nightmare is kind of fading from her mind, but the horrifying sound of an unknown woman burning, screaming, and calling out a totally unfamiliar name, yeah, that is still ringing loudly in her ears.
And here is the thing, Lila isn't just having run-of-the-mill bad dreams. She's waking up to find she's been unconsciously painting these truly terrifying scenes. We're talking about a red-haired woman, completely engulfed in flames, clutching a blue jasmine flower, literally begging for her life back. These aren't just nightmares, you guys. They're anomalies. They're massive, glaring clues pointing to a devastating reality that is hidden just beneath the surface of her life.
Now, let's talk about the intense tension right inside her own home. Outwardly, Lila's husband, Nabil, plays the role of the perfectly comforting neurologist. He calmly waves off her fears, basically telling her, "Oh, it's just exhaustion playing tricks on your vivid photographer's imagination." But the second she turns her back, a totally different reality emerges. When he spots her blue jasmine pendant, you can actually see his hands tremble. Plus, he is secretly hiding this blue psychological file labeled Lila/Samia. Red flags everywhere, right?
Which brings us to the next chapter of our explainer, the clinic's dark secret. It is time to uncover the truth.
So Lila absolutely refuses to be gaslit by her husband. She takes matters into her own hands, heads straight over to Nabil's neurology clinic, and steps directly into the center of his world. Imagine the absolute jarring shock she feels while waiting in the lobby. Her eyes lock onto a photograph hanging right there on the clinic wall among the recovered patients. It is the exact red-haired woman from her fiery nightmares, the very woman she's been painting. And right beneath that smiling face is a caption, "Samaya Fidel, volunteer." The phantom from her mind is actually a real flesh-and-blood person.
Lila obviously confronts Nabil on the spot. She bursts into his office, demanding to know who Samia is and why she is haunting her dreams. Nabil goes completely pale. First, he claims she was just a former patient who died years ago, but Lila pushes hard, screaming that Samia wants her life back. And Nabil completely loses it. He shouts, "Because you are her." Wow, it is this terrifying, intense moment. He quickly backpedals, of course, trying to brush it off as some tasteless joke about name similarities. But come on. The damage is done. The seed of a horrific truth is officially planted.
And that leads us to the next piece of the puzzle, the inspector's chilling truth. Let's look at this cold case.
Lila tracks down a name she secretly spotted in Nabil's files, a retired, badly scarred police detective named Inspector Ziad. And oh boy, he reveals a horrifying reality that completely shatters the lies Nabil has been feeding her. See, Nabil claims Samia died in a tragic car accident, but Inspector Ziad gives her the terrifying police truth. Back in 2016, Samia actually died in a warehouse fire. It was deliberate arson. And the absolute worst part, her body wasn't completely burned. The medical examiner actually found a bullet in her skull. She was murdered before the fire even started.
And then, the inspector drops an absolute bombshell. 3. There were exactly 3 people present at that warehouse the night of the murder. Samia, Nabil, and a third unknown person. But here is the ultimate twist that just shatters Lila's reality. The police found fingerprints on the murder weapon. And whose fingerprints were they? Lila's. Lila, who was only in her 20s back then and had literally zero connection to Samia. Mind-blowing, right?
So how is that even physically possible? Well, Inspector Ziad presents a horrifying theory, rooted in a really dark medical concept, memory implantation. Ziad tells Lila that she isn't actually Lila at all. He believes she is Samia. His theory is that Nabil, this brilliant neurologist, tried to murder his first fiancée, failed, and then wiped her mind completely. He implanted new memories so she would unknowingly live as his wife, essentially trapped with the very man who tried to kill her.
We are moving fast now. Let's look at the next part. The Blue File Confession. The Hunt for Hidden Proof. We are really racing toward the climax here. Lila rushes back to her apartment, just trembling in an absolute panic. She desperately needs physical proof, so she breaks into Nabil's secret drawer in the living room and finally gets her hands on that hidden blue psychological file. She's frantically flipping through all this medical jargon about memory wipes and identity changes. But then, on the very last page, she finds a twisted justification in Nabil's own handwriting. It says, "I shot her by accident. I had to forget her, so I made her forget herself too." Take a second to let the sheer horror of that resonate. He completely erased her existence just to absolve his own guilt.
And right at that exact moment of devastating realization, bam, a true, visceral jump scare. She sees a syringe in the dark. Lila looks up, and Nabil is just standing there silently in the doorway. His face is totally pale. He is perfectly calm, and in his hand he is holding a syringe filled with anesthetic.
The scariest part? He doesn't panic. He is completely cold. He is exhibiting the exact demeanor of a calculated killer executing a chilling protocol. He calmly explains his incredibly simple plan. He knew she would go to the inspector, so he's just going to administer the anesthetic, erase these horrifying discoveries, and essentially hit the reset button to bring back the good Lila who loves him. And why? All because she had originally tried to leave him for someone else.
This brings us to the craziest part of our explainer, the ultimate identity twist, the final struggle.
A frantic, desperate physical struggle completely breaks out in the living room. Lila is screaming that he killed Samia, that she is not his property. As Nabil lunges at her with the syringe, Lila grabs a heavy statue from the table and just violently smashes it right over his head. Nabil crashes to the ground, and the syringe shatters into a million pieces. Lila turns to run for the door but stops, catching her reflection in the mirror. Suddenly, the mental dam completely breaks. A chaotic, rapid-fire sequence of real memories from 2016 violently comes flooding back. She sees Samia running through the warehouse. She sees Nabil pointing the gun. She hears the deafening crack as the shot is fired, and she watches Nabil set the warehouse ablaze.
She is screaming in absolute psychological agony, remembering the paralyzing fear of that night. But right as she falls to her knees, her phone suddenly lights up. It is a new message from Inspector Ziad. He has just recovered the actual uncorrupted surveillance video from the warehouse that night. And what that footage reveals is absolutely the biggest, most devastating twist of this entire explainer. Who actually pulled the trigger? The footage proves it wasn't Nabil alone. And Lila isn't Samia. Lila is the third person in the warehouse. Lila is a woman named Rana, Samia's friend, who was desperately trying to save her that night.
This is the devastating reality, the true anatomy of the murder. During the struggle, Nabil grabbed Rana's hand. He forcefully wrapped her fingers around the gun and forced Rana to pull the trigger, killing her own best friend. And then, well, to hide his ultimate guilt and secure a perfect alibi for himself, he used his neurological expertise to completely erase Rana's identity. He literally turned his human murder weapon into his captive, memory-wiped wife.
As Rana reads this horrifying truth on her phone, she looks down at her own trembling hands. And there it is, an old, bullet-shaped scar from the slide of the gun. The undeniable physical proof of the inspector's story, staring right back at her. It's just chilling.
Our explainer concludes with a triumphant yet deeply haunting narrative arc. It's dawn. Out on the apartment balcony, Nabil is finally bound and tied up on the floor. Rana looks out toward the horizon, police sirens wailing in the distance, and she speaks, "This is me, Rana, and I will live for the truth." She takes the painted blue jasmine flower and tosses it into the sunrise, and just in the corner of her eye, the ghost of Samia smiles one last time and vanishes in peace.
Which leaves us with a deeply provocative question. What would you do if your own mind was literally a crime scene? It is a terrifying concept of stolen identity and manipulated reality that truly lingers long after the story ends. I mean, what is a person without their memories? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.